Okay, welcome everybody. I'm so excited to talk about the royal family news, the royal gossip for the past couple of days. And this one is interesting because we're going to be talking about new documents that have emerged that haven't taken out the N word. And we know that there's been so much drama about whether or not the royal family is racist. And now it looks like there is documented proof. And I want to talk about that a little bit, along with other royal news for the night, including something that Steve and I have been talking about right now. Will there be a spare two? And has Harry communicated with his brother recently? So, guys, I am Deanna here from Hot for History, and I'm really excited to just share with you. Just we go live. We like to go live and talk about the royal news, the royal gossip. And tonight we're going to talk about whether or not the royal family in the UK is racist or not. And this has been a question that goes way, way back in history, but most recently during the Oprah interview with Harry and Meghan. So let's talk about it. Please subscribe. Please share your questions and comments. Let me know where you are from because we like to know where you're coming from. And we share all different viewpoints here and we just kind of break it down. So we're going to talk about these things. And of course, in addition to the things on my list, Stephen's talking about the fashion with Catherine's dress at the tennis match. Not really something, and I'm just a dude. Well, Catherine to me always looks great, although there's a lot of criticism with whether or not Catherine and her family is way overdressed for Wimbledon, but Wimbledon attire is somewhat, more, it's not formal, but it's like business casual, right? Hi, Diane. Hi, Carla. Yeah, from Pittsburgh. Hi, Bunny from Tampa Bay. You get to live in paradise. Stephen, I know, is from the Big Q or Quincy, Illinois, which is exciting. So let's talk about this, and please do share what you're hearing, what you're thinking about sort of some of this news. So the royal family. Oh, we go back to, I think it, guys, correct me if I'm wrong. Was it 2020 when there was the Oprah interview? There's been so much that has gone on since Harry and Meghan left the royal family as senior royals. And we do know, let me put her comment on. Hey, okay. So we do know that there's been colonial, they've been colonizing places for a long time, kind of pilfering place. So there is a history of racism. Let's just get that on the table. I think the big question is, okay, yeah, but that's history. What about recently? And then, of course, Meghan and Harry brought in this suggestion, and then they dialed it back that the royal family was really concerned about how Harry's children would look. Will they basically be white or black? So we need to discuss it. So I don't believe so. It was Meghan's hot button topic, but it's a concerning issue nonetheless. Yeah. And I think it comes up here and there in the news. And Susan Hussey, as we know, recently, prior to the coronation, I guess it was at some kind of state dinner, she did make a faux pas in asking a woman who was from England, from the London area, who had some African heritage, where are you from? No, where are you from? Where are you from? Which came off as racist, and then she lost her position. So what we're talking about now, though, is I think from like 2018, guys, and that's pretty recent. And basically, this is how it goes. The royal family's been dragged into the N-word race row after dozens of references to the offensive term were found in official documents. I am going to make a confession here that as well as I know that the big N-word with two G's in the middle is offensive, I guess to me, I'm late to the game in knowing that the other N-word with the O on the end is also considered offensive in historic documents. So I didn't realize that. But that's what they're referring to 90% of the time, is the one that's a 5-letter word with an O on the end. So anyhow, it says the catalog published by the Royal Collection Trust, showcasing a selection of gems and jewels owned by the Royal Collection, contained more than 40 mentions of offensive racial terms. And the document, titled Ancient and Modern Gems and Jewels, was published by the Royal Collection Enterprises Limited in 2008. Okay, I thought it was 2018, but whatever. It's remained on its website since then and was only removed Thursday when it was flagged by the Independent. And again, the words are the 5-letter word that starts with an N and ends with an O. The latest discovery comes as we revealed last week that an offensive racial slur was included in government documents. The term was included in a report by the Met Office, as well as the Department of Work and Pensions guidance used by doctors to assess benefits claims. The slur has also been visible in the comment section of a page on the government's own websites. Get ready for this. Since 2015, the revelations prompted Rishi Sunak's official spokesperson to denounce the word as inappropriate and offensive. In the latest instance, the offensive terms are mostly used to describe people of African ancestry who appear on the jewels. The words are also included on a number of names and items in the collection. One brooch, for example, is described in the following terms: head of an N, last letter O, in 3/4 profile to the right. It's like a cameo shot. Well, there it is. With drop pearl earrings. This type of NO head is found on several 16th century cameos. Another item depicting a white person is accompanied by the description and slur. Although it uses the dark layers of the stone for the profile, the features are not N-word. So a RCT spokesperson said the trust document were continually under review. The RCT is one of the 5 departments of the royal household and is responsible for the care of the royal collection, the largest private art collection in the world, held in trust by the king on behalf of the nation. It sells tickets for tours. And it says this is the latest race row. And then it ends up bringing up Susan Hussey, who basically, made a comment to Ngozi Fulani, who's from the charity Sister Space. And she's like, where are you from? Where are you from? And then she apologized. And the Duchess of Sussex, the first person of mixed ethnicity to marry a senior royal, when she went on to Oprah and talked about the skin color. So I could go on and on, but okay, one last paragraph. Racial terms such as N ending in O have been casually used in non-pejorative sense throughout much of the 20th century across countries like the US and the UK in the 17th, 18th, 19th centuries. Such terms are interchangeably used with a descriptive language like Africans and slaves in reference to enslaved African people. So I'm going to ask you guys a question about this, because I want to know, I'll look at your comments. Do you consider the N ending in O word to be offensive? And what about all the documentation with all of the historic docs? Okay, so let's talk about Valerian. She is saying, I do think there should be some sort of address about the artifacts that they stole from other countries. Yeah. We've talked about, Val, we've talked about the South African, the Cullinan diamonds, and we've talked about the Koh-i-Noor diamonds in India. So we've addressed those, and they were very sketchily, pardon, the slang, they were acquired in a very bad way. I think the royal gene pool could use some help. That is true. What's the problem? They have married their cousins so long they all look alike. Amen. I agree. And not to mention that, but if we go, there's the controversial, I guess, in a sense, because we don't really know whether or not Queen Charlotte, who is all of their grandmother pretty much, was actually from, partially Black or not. Like, they don't know, but it's quite possible that they themselves, have African blood. I mean, most people may, So anyhow, I feel so ignorant, but I genuinely can't figure out what the 5-letter word, I'm sorry, ending in O could be. I'm sorry, with the A makes sense. The big O one. Okay. Okay. So there's a G in the middle, and we're gonna play, like we're basically on, like one of those shows, and you can figure out the rest. There's a, okay, there's an R in it, an E, and an O. Oh my gosh. Okay, so why is everything Kate? I love her, but how come it's not Queen, which I don't care about? I'm just wondering. I don't tonight we're not talking about Kate, but yeah. So the UK itself has a problem with racism, and it makes sense since the royal family have kind of made it normal and nonchalant. They also collect. Oh yeah, this is a really good point. I did a short video on this, the Blackamoor jewelry and home design. Okay, so Camilla's home is filled with it. There was this trend there was this Blackamoor kind of art and beautiful, like I think is it Bahamian? It's like from the islands. It could be probably from any island, but it's these, like, whether it's a bust, an artwork, sculpture, paintings, that they all have, like, and you would like walk into their house and, like, there'd be like a little statue on the side. I mean, if you go to New York, the little jockeys that are at the 21 Club are sort of Blackamoor-ish. And so yeah, so that's very popular, and it's been popular for years. I think I might have this Jamaican lamp that I'm trying to find that was my great aunt's. So what do we think? Yes, we do. Okay, wait. Yes. Is colonizing a racism act or belief? This is a really good question. Slavery more representative of racism? I think healthy to have these concerns to change these racist attitudes. UK is very multicultural, however. That's true. Like, in other words, colonization in and of itself, I mean, you could say that within Africa, they were taking lands from each other too. So it's not necessarily the colonization, but it's how you treat the colonization. Are you going to leave the natural resources? Are you going to treat people properly? I mean, they wanted to expand and everything, but then it's like, how do you do you have slaves or whatever? I mean, if we could do an entire hour on this, Stephen. One thing that I brought up before is that I think the colonization concept in and of itself might be racist. And I mention it this way, and I only know kind of from personal experience of going into Africa when I adopted my kids. And I mean, first off, things were really rough in Ethiopia, right? People were just dying when they should have been able to get certain medications, right? But the concept that, okay, if we go into another country, we're going to make it better by making it more modern, that in and of itself implies that more modern and more, let's say technologically advanced is better. It's, we need to help these people because they'll have a better life if X, Y, and Z. When you start to meet people in, villages or whatever, they don't have much, but many of them are very, very happy. But at the same time, yes, they could use help with wells, with like the basic necessity. And honestly, trying to combat the side effects from modernization, like the pollution and the things that are converging into their territory. And so, is colonization racist? I mean, you could say that it's not by wanting to expand, but you can also say that there's a judgment made that, okay, we're going to make things more modern and you can speak English and we'll get you books and we'll get you this, but for what end? To make it look like the West. And so if it's just to make it look like the West, then there is an implication that, okay, we're trying to tell you that this is better. And especially if you're doing that in, areas that are, let's say, predominantly like Black or, of different colors, then I don't know. It's really a good argument, right? Okay, so Bunny says that term is just as offensive as calling us colored. Yes. I mean, I think in America, especially, we use the colored word a lot in the 60s, and that was so offensive, like drinking fountains or whatever. So no, ending in O is not offensive. It's not used any longer. But this brings up another question, like how long This is a good question, and I don't know the answer. I'm just curious with you guys. There's always going to be documents and documentation from history in the past when, and they're not doing reprints on these books, right? So can we read stuff in context and just say, okay, the reason why this is out there was because during those times they would just write like that. We're adults. We can say, okay, well, I don't agree with that. And I find it offensive, but should we still be able to necessarily read it? So if there, you know, documents from antiquity that during the time, that's just how it was. Like, are we going to erase all of that or allow people to be educated by at least knowing what things were like back in the day? You know what I'm saying? It's like, how far do we go? Now, though those words were used to identify people and many times used negatively, but how far do we go in like changing language of the past that represents what things were like in those times? I'm just curious as to, yeah. And Stephen brings up a good point. Avoid the Mark Twain books, because obviously in those books, that's bad, right? And for years you would read those in schools, right? And so, I mean, recently Dr. Seuss was canceled. So I'm just saying, where do we go with that? Everyone's got a little bit of African blood, and I'm most everyone, and I'm a redhead. Nice. I got 1%. Yeah. All humans started in Africa. Yeah. So that's very true. I mean, I had my DNA done, and I'm like, I haven't even been to Germany, but I'm like 90 something percent Germany. And then maiden name is Jones. You would think I'd have more Brit, Welsh. And then but you take it way, way back, and it's sub-Saharan Africa. It's a minute amount, but yeah, it all comes back to that. Okay. So UK is multicultural, but the royals are not. That's a really good point. And I think that's the problem that everybody's trying to change. And that was the great opportunity that Meghan, especially Meghan and Harry, had, and why everybody was excited about her, because how exciting to have a princess or a duchess, sorry, of mixed race to be able to represent the royal family. And, that's why it's frustrating, because it would be nice to have Harry and Lilibet and Archie and all of them, kind of representing more. Just because the UK is yeah, okay, doesn't mean that we like it. Okay, so you're kind of saying the same thing as she is. I think it can be interwoven with racism. Enslaved people were also a product of colonization. Yeah. So the royals do not want to be multicultural. They believe in pure blood of Nazism. Yeah, I mean, it's easy to say that doesn't exist now until you start to get into the weeds and go down the rabbit hole. And then you're like, whoa, it's not used anymore because it's offensive. I like knowing, though, that it's offensive, because honestly, I was reading, I don't know, some book, it was old, that had the N with the O word in it. And I was like, oh, I haven't seen that in a while, but I just kept reading. So Captain Cook was, and then we're going to go on to something that you guys, because we're going to talk about Harry and Will in a second. Don't go anywhere, because we have to talk about Harry and William. Captain Cook was a discoverer and documented lands far, far away. Of course, he was ultimately killed by Hawaiians on Big Island. The British Museum has a library full of Captain Cook's artifacts. Yeah, and some people would want to honestly read stuff, and they're just how they would write it, because you get an idea of the dynamics at the time. I loved the Song of the South because I loved the music. When I grew up, I found the movie offensive, and so did Disney. Everything related to the movie was torn down. Okay, yeah. Portuguese, Spanish, French, and Dutch were also colonizers. True. Sorry, not everyone in England was not excited about Meghan. Sorry, not everyone in England was not excited. So I think some people were excited and some people weren't, but I definitely don't think they are now. I think they were, I think a lot of people were excited, and the level of their popularity is definitely tanked. It's definitely not where it would be. King and queen come from an older generation who believe the class system based on race. Yeah. but she attempted to try to erase her heritage. Yeah. Yeah. So it's just interesting. It's interesting. And then also, not to say that there's no, you can't be like, okay, well, Megan was lighter skinned, because I've heard some other African American friends of mine who have that conversation. It doesn't matter. But some are like, well, it'd be better if it was somebody from Africa. But you can't even state like what's better. I mean, you got to, I guess, start somewhere. I'm not sure. So let's talk about this, guys. If you have any information on this, I want to know. But this I found fascinating because it's from Sky News, but I cannot tell if it's a crock, but it's not. It's recent. It's recent. Let me double check to make sure it's recent. Yeah, July 17th. Let's talk about this. I'm going to read this, and can you guys tell me your thoughts on whether or not it could be true? It's Sky News. So it says, Megxit has blown up in their faces. Prince Harry suggested to Meghan Markle that they return to London in the royal family. Okay, so apparently, allegedly, on the royal gossip rumor mill, this is the article. Meghan Markle is livid after Prince Harry called his estranged brother panicking about money to make a truce, telling Prince William that the couple are open to going back to London, a royal insider claims. Prince Harry is panicking over his finances after the Sussex's $20 million Spotify deal was scrapped, and has contacted his estranged brother, Prince William, for advice, infuriating Meghan Markle, a royal sources claim. Do you guys believe this? To me, I don't know. I just don't know. It doesn't seem to pass the sniff test. But anyhow, the insider, I'll talk about it in a second. The insider told In Touch that the Duke of Sussex has suggested to his wife that they leave Tinseltown and move back to the United Kingdom. Obviously, Megxit has blown up in their faces, the source told the publication. Harry is starting to wonder if they made the right decision leaving England. He even suggested to Meghan that they return to London in the royal family. According to the insider and the former actress was livid at the suggestion they leave California, and shocked to find out that Harry had already contacted William without her permission. Harry admitted he'd phoned William to call a truce and told his brother he and Meghan would be open to going back to London, where they would serve King Charles. The call reportedly left the Prince of Wales speechless. Kate would have like a fit. You know that emoji, like where there's like the cloud and the brains are like coming out? That would be Kate. William didn't quite know what to say, the insider said, but did tell Harry he would think about his offer. Meanwhile, Kinsey Schofield has slammed the Hollywood Critics Awards after its judges nominated Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's Netflix docuseries for a gong this year in the best streaming nonfiction series category, with the royal commenter claiming the nod is a PR stunt. The Los Angeles-based royal expert said she is so fired up by the Duke and Duchess of Sussex making the 2023 shortlist, and claims the awards have been plagued by scandal. Okay, I have to finish this article because it's interesting. She says, I'm so fired up about this. The Hollywood Critics Association is plagued by scandal, Ms. Schofield told Sky News. And then it goes on to say, there's a scathing article in The Hollywood Reporter about one of the founders of this awards show and how he constantly lets Kristen Stewart win because he's admittedly obsessed with her and knows she'll show up to the ceremony. They call the publicist up before the awards show and say, hey, so-and-so is going to win, to ensure there are butts in the seats. This is a PR stunt. This is according to Kinsey Schofield. She says that if the Sussexes wanted to score an award for the 6-part docuseries, this is likely their best chance because, it's paid for and you got to hit. Yeah. And they want to fill the seats. So congratulations. If Harry and Meghan want a trophy for their Netflix docuseries, they are likely going to get one from this award show. Okay. So come on. Let's talk about, isn't this like two things? One is the award and the Hollywood Critics Award. And then the other is whether or not Harry and Meghan have chatted. So I'm going to scroll back because I think you guys were commenting. Okay, let's see. We're still on the race thing back here. Okay. So let me, king and queen come from an older, we were there. Okay. As a younger, but then with Oprah, she brought it out as a badge of the Battle of the Royal Family. I need somewhere that I read somewhere that the person who used the N-word identified. Okay. Meghan believed being 50% white would make her acceptable in a society which believes in the one drop theory of being black. Okay, so this is just to keep them relevant in the news. Okay, protection must cost a lot. Okay, so now Stephen is sort of starting the conversation based on this article now. Okay, so I just read, do you guys believe that William would call Harry? Now, I'll give you my opinion. I think I've said all along, and I know many of you, almost those of you who I know, the regulars, you guys have all said, I think they're going to go back. I think they're going to go back. So I can see them being a bit desperate and wanting to go back. I personally think that they should be back. But one of our friends, Brian, who's not here tonight, he's like, oh no, nobody in the UK is going to accept them. And if any of you are there from the UK, let me know. And then I didn't think he was talking to his brother, and I didn't think the news on the street was like he would not have a conversation one-on-one with his brother. And what the likelihood of him saying, "Ooh, things aren't going well here because we lost our Spotify deal. Can you give me money?" And then Prince William going, "Let me think about it." I mean, I just don't see it after all that's been said and done. So I want to know what you guys think too. Okay, so Steven says he has to beg for money from daddy and has to establish residency for visa purposes. So are you saying, Steven, that he wants the money so he can stay in the US and get his visa? Like, they're not going to give him money for that. Okay, so let me see what Val has to say. No, I mean, yeah, Meghan could be upset because the Spotify deal, that's normal. I think they're exaggerating. Okay, yeah. You think Harry and Meghan are exaggerating, or this article I think you mean this article is exaggerating. Also, who is telling the reporters this? Exactly. This is so out of character for both of them. I just don't, I agree. I don't think, with all that's gone down, I can't imagine him being like, "Hey, brother, I haven't talked to you since, I talked about you like falling on pushing me on the dog dish and cutting my back in the book, or about how, tacky your wife is and wouldn't lend Meghan her lip gloss. And I remember how it's so funny how we were talking about Camilla being the evil stepmother and how Meghan wouldn't even come to the coronation. And then I left the coronation really fast. And then when I was in this is Prince Harry saying, okay, when I was in court, when I said you guys were basically all spying on people and being the ones planting, by the way, can you give me $20 million? Let's make nice. Like, it just does not sound right. Okay. To me, I agree with you, Val. It doesn't sound right. So anyhow, she's like a dog with a bone. If there's a trophy around, she'll grab it. Now, that is the other thing I did think when they were talking about, feel free, by the way, to continue any conversations we're having at the same time, because this is like the Royal Roundup. We are going we'll talk about anything. The Hollywood Critics Award is like one of the other awards that they've gotten, which is basically, kind of not an award. I will say, though, you guys heard me say I was positive they would not only get an Emmy nomination, but I was positive that they would get an Emmy win. I mean, it was popular, and honestly, it created a lot of controversy. And oftentimes when you create controversy because of a work of art or whatever, it becomes popular. So I was shocked about that. I mean, it just seems more in kind of what Hollywood is to have nominated them and given them the award, in my opinion. But it was polar opposites. So, and I'm not saying that I thought the Netflix series was great. I thought it was like, oh no, like I was a hate watcher. I was a hate watcher. And yet after I watched it, I'm like, honestly, with the exception of the bow, it wasn't that bad. In some ways, they made themselves look human. was fine. I think if they would have just left it after the series, they would have been 1,000% fine. They could have rebounded, but then they had to like, stick it to the royal family and then stick it again. It's like, okay, you're done. The royal blood is everywhere now from your attack. So I don't know. Girl, Carla says maybe Harry misses the national health system. That's funny. And then, okay, what losers? I'm sorry. Should this actually be true? Yes, losers. I couldn't imagine that he would simp all the way back to his older brother after all that. I'd say that was a clickbaitish. Yeah. And yet, Evelyn, I mean, we've been shocked by some of the things they've done. That's the only thing that makes me go, could that be true? Like, otherwise I would have been like, done. This is just fake. But because they've done so many things that are like shocking, you have to entertain everything. You do. They have to go back. Okay, let me see. It's not safe to do it on their own. The people will accept them if King Charles. I think you're right. And I think that, I don't know. I still think for myself, I would be like all over the fact that Harry and Meghan have come back and they're finally living their royal lives with the kids there. I mean, it would be sort of like the perfect ending to a drama. And I mean, and if you do look long term, what does it look like unless they get divorced or something? So, but Meghan has shown no desire to go there, but I don't know. I don't know. I mean, Montecito is a very nice place. William unlikely would contact, but he has to get a residency in the UK. Oh, to be a counselor of state. William unlikely would. Okay, so, but isn't he? I mean, he is a resident in the UK, right? So, I mean, Harry is. So, well, oh, to be a counselor. Oh, I see what you're saying. Like him even calling him. Yeah, I mean, it's odd. It's odd. If the royal family lets them back in, it will be the end of the British monarchy, you think? Oh, this is going to have to be a very delicate dance. I mean, now that you bring it up. If they do, it's going to have to be done like sliding in the back door, be quiet. It has to be like after something that gains a lot of sympathy from the public. And again, then there's Kate. Kate's like H to the no, talk to the hand. I don't see her like, and honestly, even Sophie and Anne, Anne was kind of welcoming and loving to Harry. I think she's more, as tough as she is about everything, probably about Meghan. I feel like she has a real soft spot for Harry. That is true. The fact that someone knows their phone calls is kind of scary. And it's kind of hilarious in a sense, because if Harry's saying, oh, the calls are being tapped and now all of a sudden there's like a report in Sky News about a telephone call, like who would even know? Like who's going to know, unless that was one of those little royal slips that Harry's always complaining about. You know what I'm saying? That they leak and they plant and they plant and they leak. Yeah. Since he could never talk directly to his family before he splits, this article must be false. Yeah. And yet, Carly, just like I said, it's sort of like, I don't know, like there's been all kinds of weirdness. I'm English from the UK and we do not want Meghan Markle on our land. A lot of us never want it. Yeah. And I've heard that. Heard that before from a lot of people that no thank you, we're not interested in her whatsoever. Done. Like they're not interested in her. So that's the other problem. Like it's easy to sit over here in the United States and go, oh, that'd be so interesting, but the people in the UK are like, and all of the impressions of, the civility of like, oh, the, high tea or whatever. No, People can be really tough, and people are very direct in the UK, depending on where where you're from. A fake rapprochement, as French say. Oh, okay. So they'd have to do something in order to get them, yeah. Meghan Markle and Harry are winning court cases. They are proving the media was poisoning their image. Yeah. Of course, you don't see the win. You have to find the articles for the wins, and it's not hard to find the articles for the losses. Oh my gosh. Okay. No Emmy, right? No Emmy. Do you think it was nonfiction? I feel like it. I don't believe it. And yet I was surprised because Sky News, I mean, I oftentimes believe them. I probably shouldn't, but oftentimes I do. I think while Meghan did suffer from racism, everyone is problematic. First and foremost, they should be accountable for their actions, but that's wishful thinking. Yes. It's just honestly what we're all watching is a comedy of errors from every single angle. We talk about Meghan and Harry a lot. Why? Because they're sort of the just the instigator of having us look at the whole thing. And in some ways, that's very interesting. So we start with them, but the truth is that the whole thing's dysfunctional and the royal family is dysfunctional, and they can't claim that there hasn't been racism. Come on. Like we claim it, it's everywhere. So you can't just be naive and say that doesn't exist. Does it exist now? And they're thinking about it all the time. That's kind of what's up for debate. But I mean, if you have some language all the way to 2015 and even 2008 in documents that probably should be redacted or I guess hidden, then that shows that somebody didn't have, the inclination to want to remove that. But I will say probably at Oxford and Cambridge and everywhere, there are tons of documents and publications that have all of that. Personally, I think it's interesting to be able to read and see where things came from, especially if you're going to study race history and all of that. It's good to be able to see those documents. Whether or not they should be on a public, royal sanctioned website, that's the problem. If it's in academia, whole other thing. They need the British home as an attempt to weasel their way back in money wise and as protection on visa removal. And I knew a British lady who had to go back once a year legally. Yeah, that is true. I don't know where their home is like right now because they don't have Frogmore. I know that they could stay in Buckingham Palace, but no, there's a whole article out on that too, that nobody wants to stay in Buckingham Palace. Oh, all right. I had a couple other things we were going to talk about. Okay. So, oh yeah, so hang on, let me show you the article too. All right. So apparently William, because, he has all of that land and everything like that he's the Duke of Cornwall or whatever. He has a place in Wales, and apparently it's like a £1.5 million property. It's like a cottage, but it's really nice. And the king stays there like once or twice a year and has paid some money to have it refurbed. Well, now it's in, William's little portfolio of real estate things. And he's decided to turn it into a rentable property. And so he's saying to his dad, you have to remove your personal effects out of that building in order for us to be able to rent it. And now it's like a big deal because apparently he didn't want to move, which basically is the theme for everybody. Harry and Meghan were evicted from Frogmore and followed suit with, handing in their keys and everything. Prince Andrew didn't. Prince Andrew was supposed to be moving from the Royal Lodge into Frogmore, and they were going to move people around. And then, of course, there's all this talk about the Queen's previous staff being kicked out of their little houses, yada, yada, yada. And now the big news in this regard, it makes it look like, hey, the king is being pushed back upon from his own son, who's been known as the good son rather than the bad son. So it's becoming a little bit dramatic. Got it? So let's talk about that. They need British home. Okay, so panicking sounds a bit rash. Either it's an exaggeration or there's Okay, and there's more to this, and Harry needs to grow up. He isn't in any dire situation. He needs to realize how people live. That is true. And maybe not live in a multi-million dollar home. Prince Harry has to become the decision maker, yes, in their family. So for it seems like Meghan Markle is wearing the pants. That is true. I feel like he needs to step up in general. Like in all of the things, he just seems so like whatever you say, like it seems so like thoughtless, right? But many people have called him just downright stupid. I am not saying that. I'm just saying what people have said. Can British people have dual citizenship? Oh yeah, I think they can. I don't know the exact rules, but I think if you're exclusively British, there are many, like just in America, if you're in a place for a while, you need to leave to get the visa and come back. Maybe this is an unpopular opinion, but I feel like we're on the tail end of the monarchy anyway. Yeah, and there's a lot of anti-monarchists out there. There really are. Like they didn't like the coronation. They didn't like anything. They call them Republicans who are just, straight on the republic, different Republicans than what we call them. His children can have dual citizenship. Unsure about Harry. Yes. Although sometimes when your kids are born in America, which Lily was, and you're married to an American, then you can get your citizenship. I don't know if he would want to. That would be a big controversial thing if he got his citizenship. I'm sure he can get like more of a full-time visa. That would be intense. Anne understands being the spare in the royal family. She was pushed to the side. Yeah. So she does seem to be, as tough as she is and as dedicated as she is to the royal family, she seems to have more compassion to Harry. Yes, UK citizens can have dual citizenships with Commonwealth countries, but I'm not sure about others. That's a really good point. They probably leaked the call themselves. Yes. Harry received a much larger inheritance, yes, than William because he inherited a castle and direct to the crown. He has to have investments, which mean a good portion of the money will be tied up, but desperate. Yeah, and he got more from the Queen Mother because they knew that William would get more money at some point. It's the old guard UK conservative that hate Meghan Markle, and they know it has nothing to do with her personality. Yeah. Now, Lady C is a classic and often gives the true British view on Harold and his wife that Brits tired of them and don't want them to come back, just like our friends here have said. Okay, so but what do you guys think about William charging his dad rent? I mean, I totally think it's perfectly fine. They have many places to stay. But I'm just curious as to what your thoughts are on the subject. Okay, so let's read a little bit more and then we are going to call it a night. King Charles gave Prince Harry an apartment in Buckingham Palace. I did hear that too. And I made a little video about it a while back. Like, yeah, that's fine with me. I mean, also it's in the middle of London. If you want to go into the country, go in the country. They live in Montecito. Why not have fun in the city? It's fun. I love London. I think it's a great city. Okay, that Harry's taking Prince Andrew's apartment. Oh yeah, that's true. I remember that article. Okay, the monarchy I'm going to take just a couple more. So if I missed your comments, I apologize because we were going to talk about a spare two. Think about that. Have you heard about a spare two? The monarchy needs to die out. It's so outdated that people only leech onto it for a sense of sentimental. That is true. Historical vanity and celeb. When in reality, the peasantry just seems like whipping boys. It's true. I think I told you, we've talked about this, but when the coronation came, I had I did not expect to react this way, but when the king showed up in his robe and stuff, because the last time I'd seen something like that was on the black and white screen with Queen Elizabeth, I chuckled for a moment because I was like, oh my gosh, this is so embarrassing. Like I just had this natural reaction like, oops, so yeah. So no, the king, he has a castle, doesn't he? He doesn't need a he needs whatever he wants, Val. They all go on holiday soon, so I suspect we will see some travel by Harry. Any status on his African trip? Maybe Bunny knows. I don't know. And then Okay, so before you guys came on, it was just Steven and I, and Steven said, what about the rumor that there's going to be a spare too? Now, remember that a while back, they said that they were not going to market on the royal family anymore. It was going to be all non-royal stuff. And then we heard that the other 400 pages or whatever were going to be released. So what do you think? Is there going to be a spare two? Would you read it? Would you read it? I read the last one, or I listened to the last one on Audible. Would you read it? Okay, I want to hear what Evelyn has to say because I see the word alpha. Harry is no alpha. That is true. Very true. That boy asked Meghan for permission to be beta. Yeah, there is nothing that could convince me he leads anything in that home. I agree. He barely protects provisions and she provides. Yeah. I don't think he's going to say any, I agree with you. I don't think he's like, oh, I'm sorry, dear. Can we like go to the States? I mean, can we go back to the UK? Can we go back home? And I don't think she's going to want to do it. I think in some ways they both need to grow a pair, including Meghan, toward the royal family. She all along, in my opinion, while I've always liked strong women, I didn't feel like she was strong in the way that she was handling her communication with the royal family. Go support your husband at the coronation, even if people throw tomatoes at you. Like, go ahead and do it. Go ahead on the tour with him, even though it might be embarrassing to you. It seems like she's in self-protection mode, and maybe also with protecting her kids, but I just don't see her as strong as they're making her out to be. Strong in the sense of making American style decisions in her career. Yeah, but there's a strength in being able to have communication and negotiation with difficult people. And I just don't see that with her. I feel like she wants what she wants and she gets it. And that same trait of hers is probably what's causing the problem with their career, because if she was willing to take constructive criticism and humble herself a little bit in that regard and be strong like that, because it takes strength to be humble enough to go, oh, maybe you guys shouldn't, talk about the catastrophic car chase or change those words, or maybe you should just go the back route, for security after this event, like everybody else in New York does. No, we'll go out the front because there's back grid there taking pictures. It takes a strength, in my opinion. I like that type of strength to be able to assess and then make a decision on your own while listening to experts. And I don't think that she's got that in her. The Queen wanted her to listen to Sophie and Anne and have sort of basically a mentor within the royal family to get through it, especially with Sophie, who had been in PR for so long. So I just don't see Meghan as strong in the way that I like strong. Many people could say she's totally strong because she's a strong feminist. I don't see her that way. I just don't. I don't see her in that regard. Yeah, that is true. She had those kinds of thoughts that I can't say out loud. Okay, guys, I am going to go. We will come back. I'm trying to get a regular time, maybe on Monday nights. Steven's like, can you do Monday nights? So the week kind of went by. Please look in the description. I have a trip that I'm planning next year to Germany. I would love to see you guys on it. I do other businesses. I have licensed insurance, have some amazing insurance plan. And then I also have, I work as an executive in this amazing natural supplement company. There are links there. You can support me by switching out your vitamins and ordering vitamins or shakes or whatever from those links. And that's it. And I appreciate you guys so much for all of your support. Have a great, great night. And I will talk to you soon. Bye.